Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for January 28th, 2025. Thank you for being here. You can watch on YouTube if you would like. Just search 97.3 The Fan. You could also watch on Facebook, 97.3 The Fan, and Twitch, 97.3 The Fan. And then on X, at Matt Skraby or at 97.3 The Fan SD. So you just heard, I was defeated in Chris's Fantabulous Sports Game Show, but today I don't feel as bad about it as I usually do. I don't, because I actually didn't miss any. And there was someone on the chat there, Chad Weatherford. He was saying that he didn't believe that we knew all those things. And I can understand why you would think that, because it's kind of crazy to remember all that stuff. But for some reason, my football brain, I know all that random stuff. And Tony does too. Tony's like a sports almanac. But football itself, I know those things because I used to look at all the different cities and the Super Bowl cities, and so that was a good category. Anyway, I still lost, but hey, I didn't get one wrong this time. Gonzo said it was the best match we've had to date. I mean, we've had some good ones, but that was a good one, and it's kind of unfulfilling though because it ended with Tony getting the last one, and I didn't have a rebuttal, so I guess I'm just not going to dwell on it too much. We got a lot going on tonight. We have that. During the show, I asked the guys about a trade for Vlad Jr. We're going to kick that around a little bit. We have the Daily Gripe at the end of the show. We're going to talk about what's new in the lawsuit between the Padres and Shield Seidler. I guess the Seidler brothers and Shield Seidler. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about in just a second. The Padres signed former All-Star catcher Elias Diaz, and it's a one-year deal for $3.5 million. So, and the deal includes an option for 2026. So, hey, we did something today. We have something to talk about today, everybody, and that's good because we actually mentioned this guy a few times in the offseason saying, hey, he's still out there. Padres need a catcher. He's cheapish. Go after him. He was on the team last year at the end of the season, and I think the prevailing thought so far on this whole thing, because now they have Diaz, they have Campusano, they have Maldonado, and they have Brett Sullivan. And last year when Diaz came over, he didn't necessarily have great numbers with the Padres because he only played 12 games for them. But when he was with the Rockies, he had a 1.2 WAR. He hit 270. His OPS was 693. He only hit 5 home runs. But hey, we've been saying this the whole time. The catching position does not need to be a source of a lot of offense. All it needs to be is a good defensive catcher, someone who can handle the pitching staff, and then you have to have someone who's able to spell the starting catcher. And so I think this is a good signing. He's already somewhat familiar with the team, and he's only $3.5 million. So if we're paying attention to the payroll, if we're paying attention to what's going on in that regard, I think this was one of those deals that A.J. Preller makes that is quote-unquote creative. Now, it's not, I guess, the most creative deal of all time, but Elias Diaz, good signing. Prolific says, good signing. Chad says, it's something. Trevor says, great signing. Tony's getting his stuff, and he says he loves it. Bye, Tony. But at least it's something. At least it's something. We didn't ask for much, and so we got this. We got this. Diesel says if he could do half of what Higgy did, I think it's an okay signing. I agree. Sometimes you just need to see one go in. Yeah, I guess so. I guess we're talking about signing someone. They did sign Mike Brousseau, and they brought back Tyler Wade. But hey, I know we're kind of tongue-in-cheek about this whole thing, but it is baseball news. It is actually something that I think will benefit the team, and I don't know that they're going to be carrying 4 catchers. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be carrying 4 catchers, which would be, again, Diaz, Campusano, Sullivan, and Maldonado. So something is going to have to happen there. But I at face value, it looks like Diaz and Campusano are going to be fighting for the starting catching position. Whoever loses out is the backup. And then I do like Brett Sullivan. I think that he didn't have much going on last year. He didn't get many opportunities last year, but we've seen Brett Sullivan do some good things. I don't think that he's a starting catcher or anything like that, but I do think that he's someone that they can rely on when he comes to the big leagues to play some good defense. Now, his bat is something that needs, is left to be desired. His career in let's see how many games. 40 games in his career, he's hitting 206, 542, but again, he's a catcher. We're not looking for huge numbers in the hitting department for the catcher. But this one, good move, and they can only build off of it. Let's see. I was going to read some comments, but I'm not seeing anything I wanted to read. So let's go and move into, we're going to talk about the lawsuit in the second segment because I kind of want to talk about this fun stuff first, since we just talked about a signing and now we're going to be talking about a fake trade. But these are the type of things, what I'm about to read, these trades are the type of trades that are the ones that I think everyone is looking for. I know that when a big name is involved, it catches my attention much more. Now, there are certain trades that AJ makes, AJ Preller, and they're lesser names, but they're a really good fit for the team. So the Athletic Zachary Reimer, because the Blue Jays are looking to offload Vladimir Guerrero Jr., has proposed this trade. And I asked the guys earlier, I'll tell you what they said in just a second. But Zachary Reimer wrote, the Padres should trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and give back or send back Jake Cronenworth and Yuki Matsui. And I asked the guys, would you do that in a vacuum? And they said yes. And even outside of a vacuum, I don't think this trade would ever come to fruition because I don't think there's really the return to the Blue Jays doesn't seem like they're getting something for Vlad Jr. So this trade is kind of out there to begin with, but it's a starting point. And it's kind of crazy for several reasons. As I just said, Vlad Jr. is a big name, has a big future ahead for him, but also he's carrying a $28 million salary this year. So the Padres, if they offloaded Jake Cronenworth and Yuki Matsui, they would only be able to offload about $17 million. So they would have to pay that they would net $11 more million of payroll in this deal. Now, can they make other deals that will help with this sort of thing? Yes. And if I see a tweet or if I see some news break that the Padres have acquired Vlad Jr., I am in. Now, Vlad Jr., I'm going to go back to his stats real quick because he's had somewhat of an up and down career. He's had brilliance, and then he's also had, struggle, as Chris said earlier, struggle sauce years. But last year, he was really good. 6.2 WAR, 323 batting average, 30 home runs, 103 RBIs. His OPS plus was 166. His OPS was 940. And that's why, with all those numbers I just gave you, that's why I don't think the Padres are going to be sending only Jake Cronenworth and Yuki Matsui back if this deal does come to fruition. I think it would have to be more. Blue Jays are going to want more. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. since 2019 has been one of the best power hitters in baseball. 2021, he hit 48 home runs. 2022, he hit 32. 23, he hit 26. 24, last year he hit 30. And the year that in 2021, he was, his OPS was over 1. He had the best year of his career. And then he kind of went down a little bit, hit 274 2022, 264 in 2023, but found it again in 2024, hitting 323. Again, this is a trade that is being made up by an athletic writer, but I would do this trade. Now, what other players, if we're talking about this fake trade, what other players do we think that the Blue Jays would want? Would it be someone like Dylan Cease? Would it be someone like Michael King? Now, last night I said the Padres need to not trade Michael King as much as they possibly can. Michael King needs to be on this team. But if you put in there, Jake Cronenworth and Dylan Cease, I think that might get done. Dylan Cease is a rental. Jake Cronenworth is under contract, so they don't have to worry about that, the Blue Jays. And his contract is somewhat friendly to most teams. But Dylan Cease being a rental, Vlad Jr. being a rental, I think that could happen. Now, obviously, it's not likely to happen. It's not every day that a big-time player like Vlad Jr. is traded. But you would have to send either Michael King or Cease. And I'm seeing people say not King or Cease. I just don't know that the Padres are going to start this year with one of those guys on the roster. And the reason is not because I dislike either player, but the reason is that there are more problems that need to be fixed with the Padres roster right now than they can use their minor league system to fix it. They need a left fielder. They need a couple more pitchers. They need some bench pieces. So that's why I think that one of those two players, Michael King or Dylan Cease, would be having to be a part of some sort of deal like this. And I don't even know that the Padres are interested in rental Vlad Jr. because what's the point? I mean, you're going to offload. I guess you're offloading Dylan Cease and you're getting some value for him before he becomes a free agent. But you're not going to be able to re-sign Vlad. So if we're looking down the road, I don't think this would make sense. But for this year, I do think this makes sense. They have to do something. And hey, maybe and we've said this a couple times, but maybe they get down to the trade deadline and they're able to use, Vlad Jr. to rebuild the team or whatever. Or maybe they get to the trade deadline and they're in such a good spot that they don't want to trade anyone, like Vlad Jr. if he was on the team, or like Michael King or something like that. That's what I'm really excited about this year, is seeing the different roster moves that can be made and probably will be made because they need so much stuff right now. Jacob says Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso, to me, I know this doesn't make me an expert, but he was on my fantasy team last year, my fantasy baseball team, and he struggled. I mean, Pete Alonso's either a home run or an out. So I don't know. Vlad Jr. to a degree is that way, but he hit over 300 last year. Not many guys hit over 300, and he had a 940 OPS. So I can't say I can't say that with Vlad Jr. But it's something that we're gonna really be covering throughout the entire season. I know that, and I know that Chris and Tony are gonna get mad at my fake trades that I'm proposing all the time. But hey, that is why it is fun. I'm seeing someone saying trade Manny, Tatis, Merrill, and Jake. No. Okay, come on. And, they're saying we need pitchers, so why trade a pitcher? We've talked about that, but I think we all know it's because those are the best value guys on the team right now. So when we get back, though, we will talk. I was talking to someone earlier today about the Padres rotation, and maybe the reason that they haven't really signed any guys is because they already have their guys. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll get into the lawsuit. More on the way with the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. Back here in the Odyssey Palace, 97.3 The Fan, Matt Skraby, with you until 7 p.m. Just kind of talking about random fake trades. You know, because we haven't really got to talk. I mean, we get to talk about the roster, but we don't actually get to talk about players on the roster because there have been no additions. But today, Elias Diaz was signed by the Padres to be a catcher for them. 1 year, $3.5 million. Now, I was going to do a little bit of research there in that break, but I looked up on TV, and we have the MLB Network on in here. And during the offseason, they play a lot of movies. And one of my favorite movies of my childhood is on right now, and I got lost in it. And it's Little Big League. I hope everybody has seen Little Big League, but basically it's a story about a kid whose grandpa owns the Twins. His grandpa dies, and then he makes his grandson the owner of the Twins, and then the kid makes himself the manager of the Twins. It's pretty good. I love it. So that's what's on right now. Got lost in that for a second. And I think I'm going to have to go watch Rookie of the Year right now. Not right now, but later. Rookie of the Year was my favorite movie of my childhood. When Henry Rowan-Gardner broke his arm as a kid and then ended up being a pitcher for the Chicago Cubs. It's good stuff. Really good stuff. So don't go watch Little Big League now. Find it on Prime or something like that, and then go watch it later because it's a great movie. It's great. All right, so we were talking about all of those different roster things that are going on, Elias Diaz, all of that, and I completely lost my tab, but no, there it is. Never mind. I shouldn't have said that out loud. But this whole lawsuit thing is really bumming me out, I gotta say. And I know it is a big deal, but I'm getting, we're just in the beginning of this, and we're getting to a point where I'm starting not to tune out on it, but the back and forth is where things lose me. And I understand why there is back and forth. I understand why one side wants to defend themselves when one side also makes one side so one side says something and then the other side has to respond. That's how it works, Matt Skraby. Then the other side responds to that thing, and it just goes back and forth. It's not my favorite thing in the world. And it's also not my favorite thing in the world to see all of the different headlines out there about this situation. It's a bummer because now I'm getting texts from people across the country asking me about this whole ownership situation and asking me what happened and asking me who I believe. And the answer I give them is the same answer I give all of you. I don't know who to believe because there are things that we just don't know about. And I know I've said that 100 million times here on this show, but it's the truth and I have to keep saying it. So that's what I tell people when I tell them that, hey, that's when they ask, I just say, it's just a bummer. I just don't really want to talk about it. But the headlines I saw today were like one from Yahoo Sports. Padres ownership at odds. And then if you go to CBS Sports and you go to the Padres section, they also have an article up, and it's messy Padres family fight now includes Roki Sasaki. And the reason that it includes Roki Sasaki is because the filing that the Seidler brothers made in the Texas court said this, quote, during a crucial time when Padres management was in late negotiation stages with a star pitcher, Shields' lawsuit recklessly suggested that Matt and his brothers were plotting to relocate the Padres elsewhere. Now, that statement was given to Roki Sasaki's agent, Joel Wolf, and he said this about that statement. Quote, we knew it was an issue. The timing of it appeared oddly strategic, and I wanted to allow the Padres to deal with it first on their own terms rather than try and figure out it on our own, which they did deal with it on their own terms. So I think that this is we can't prove this. We cannot prove that this lawsuit caused Roki Sasaki to sign with the Dodgers, because I do believe, and I'm not trying to say that the Dodgers cheated. Well, okay, let me start over, rein it back in. I don't want to say that the Dodgers are, these big bad people that do anything and don't care about anyone else. But I really can't say that Roki Sasaki's decision was it was made on January 6th when that lawsuit came out. I also think this is a very easy way for Joel Wolf, because all the pressure is on on him and Roki Sasaki, because a lot of people think this was a sham process and it was always going to be the Dodgers. So it's a very, very opportunistic thing for the Sasaki camp to say, to try and throw people off the trail even more. Again, I don't care anymore about Roki Sasaki signing with the Dodgers. Will I care when they're playing against them? Yes, but I'm over that whole part of it. I'm over the part where I think that the Dodgers have had this deal done for years and years and years. I don't like that is being used as like a bargaining chip with the public. And that's not me coming down on one side, because both sides are using these things as bargaining chips. And that's not really what I'm interested in seeing. I want to see this thing be done in a professional way. This, in the end, is really hardest on Peter's kids. It's not fun for them to see this. It's not fun for them. And I honestly don't know much, if anything, about Peter's kids, but I don't even know how old they are. But I'm sure that they're somewhat aware of what's going on, and it really is not, it's not a fun thing for anyone to go through, much less on this huge public stage that we got going on right now. So the headlines are going to try and steer you in a direction, but when you're reading these things, just read down the middle and ask yourself questions as you read all of these things, because some of these things that you read in these filings make you a little bit angry. And again, I'm not picking one side or the other, but there are things in the filings where I read it and I'm like, if that's true, then I don't like that. And then I read the response and I say, okay, they made a good response. And so I don't know who to believe, which is where we are going to be with this whole thing until it's resolved. I don't know who to believe. I just don't think that Roki Sasaki changed his mind because of this. I think that would be, Roki Sasaki was going to be paid no matter what. And so it's very convenient, again, for Joel Wolf and Roki Sasaki to say that this was on their radar. They didn't say that it made his decision, but I don't buy it for 1 second. 1 second at all. As part of the 25-page filing, Matt Seidler alleged that Sheil Seidler in October demanded $20 million in initial distributions, followed by the same amount in annual distributions, and said she received Peter Seidler's $30 million Texas ranch and more than $4.5 million in cash from trust distributions since her husband's death in November 2023. There's a lot of money on the line, everyone. And that is why this is so important to both sides. And both sides say they want to have Peter's legacy go on. Actions are going to speak louder than words. But I hope that's the case, because that's all I really care about. Like, everybody knows me. Everybody knows that I am someone who does not like big business. Not necessarily that this is big business, but I'm also someone who doesn't really give time to, for lack of a better way of explaining this, I don't want to give time to rich people fighting over rich people things. And again, this is very important for them. I'm not trying to say that it's not important and they should just get rid of this lawsuit. Whatever is happening within the people that are involved, I understand it's very important, but I just can't. I can't do it. It's hard for me to follow along with some of these things because all I really care about is whether or not the Padres are going to win a World Series, whether or not the Padres are going to be able to put a good team on the field opening day of 2025. That's all I really care about. That's all I care about. I don't really, in the end, obviously, whoever wins this, if they do take over the team, it will change how things are done, or it won't. Or it's actually going to be what everybody says, and that is for Peter Seidler to get his legacy out there. Matt Skraby needs to learn biosciences, quickly become a billionaire, then buy the Padres and win us a World Series. That would be my plan. Hey, if I'm become a billionaire, let's go. I would buy the Padres, and I would make all of the right decisions, and I say that now. And I'm sure these decisions are not as easy to make when you're actually in that chair. I know that because I used to be the guy on the radio who's like, hey, or the guy on the radio, the guy listening to his radio in the car being like, oh, I could do that. And then I realized real quick that it was much more difficult than I thought it was. Chad says if Tatis stays healthy, that could be huge. I said it last night. He needs to be healthy this year. His stats lined up with a projected, monster season last year if he was able to play all the games. And the older he gets, I think the more he learns about heading into seasons, and the more he realizes that he needs to do to stay healthy throughout the year. So I really want to see Fernando have an MVP season, which he could have had last year, but he got hurt. All right, real quick. So, you know what? Took that whole time up. On the other side, I'm going to tell you about the two pitchers that we're not really talking about to round out the rotation. And yeah, we have talked about them, but this is a conversation that I had earlier today with a coworker, and I think it's kind of interesting because we may have the pitching right in front of us. So that is what we're going to talk about when we get back on 97.3 The Fan. Ben and voicemail segment. Now, if you heard the show earlier, Gwen and Chris, you know that I had an incident on my dog walk today. Now, I would like to combat some rumors out there. A, I am not an angry human being. I promise you. I may sound like that at times. But if you ever meet me out and about, I'm not an angry human being. Unless you aren't someone who is able to show a little bit of sympathy. And as I was running around, chasing my dogs through the neighborhood, calling their names, it was a scene. This lady was like, hey, can you do something about your dogs and get your dogs under control? And that's when I snapped. And I said, what the hell do you think I'm doing? And I don't feel bad about this one because this lady was not nice. And she just sat there the entire time. Like, I understand that dogs running at you is scary because I've had it happen to myself. But my dogs, and I know I'm making excuses for them, but they come up very friendly. They're wagging their tails. They're not barking. They're not anything like that. They just want to play. They just want to play. And this person did not want them to play. This person actually wanted to probably kill them. But people ask me, why do you say those things on the radio just so everybody can make fun of you? And my answer is, I realized a long time ago that if I wanted to work in this business, then I was going to have to be pretty open about things that happen in my life. And it usually ends up that something weird does happen to me. It happens all the time. This is something I didn't tell on Gwen and Chris. But so after this whole thing with the dogs, I get ready to come to work. I stop at this 7-Eleven because I think I've said this before and I'm trying to quit it, but I like strawberry watermelon gum and I eat that because then I don't, it's just something that I've done since I stopped drinking because driving is like a trigger for some reason. So I like this sort of gum. And so I stopped and I got the gum. And as I was checking out, the employee at the counter was like fighting with their boss. It was so awkward. I kind of wanted to video it, but I knew that wasn't the right thing to do, so I didn't. But I was trying to pay, and when I was paying, this guy was yelling at his boss, telling her that he's not afraid of her. He's not afraid of what she could do to him. And she said, I'm going to call the police. And I'm not joking. And I'm going to call the police on you if you don't leave. I'm not going anywhere. As he's like ringing me up. And I got like two people behind me. And I look at them and they're kind of giving me the same look like, what is happening here? And so as soon as I paid, I got out of there. But today has been a weird day. Today has been an incredibly weird day. And so once I left that 7-Eleven, I told myself, you need to get this day back on track. You need to, because it's been so weird already. And I went to the dentist this morning. So here we go. This is what I guess here's how the day started. And then we'll get into the pictures. I went to the dentist 8 a.m. Not crazy early, but early for me because I don't get home until about 8:30, and then I don't go to bed until about 10:30, 11, whatever. I get there. I go right in. Everything's fine. I love my dentist. I don't mind going to the dentist. And they tell me I need a new tooth. And I'm like, why? Why do I need a new tooth? And I will tell a little story about Skraby the drunk. That happened, when did this happen? Probably 2006 or 7, maybe? That long ago, yes. But they tell me I need a new tooth because when I was drinking, I one night was hanging out with some friends, and there was this like huge, oversized novelty martini glass that, excuse me, I'm losing my voice again. It's a novelty martini glass that we put a bunch of booze in, and we all drank from it. And we thought it was hilarious because we were in college, and that was like a cool thing to do. And everybody wanted to come over and drink out of the novelty martini glass. Well, I was, of course, drunk, and I decided that, I was going to do an over-the-top laugh, like, ha, 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 kind of thing. It made sense at the time, trust me. But when I came down with my face, my teeth smashed right into the novelty martini glass. And immediately, I could feel in my mouth that, like, I thought I broke the glass. I thought that the glass had broken off into my mouth, but no, I spit out what's in my mouth, and it's my tooth. It's like pieces of my tooth. So I had to go find a dentist in the area that I was in, which I was visiting a friend at the time. So it wasn't like it was very easy to find this emergency dentist, but I got this put back together, and it's lasted a really long time, but I guess it's coming up on I guess it's almost 20 years old, this tooth. It's coming up on, its usable service life. And so they told me I needed to get a new tooth. That was the first thing that happened to me today. And then it went into the dogs, and then it went into 7-Eleven, and then it went into Chris's Fantabulous Sports Game Show, and now we're here. But I am not very happy about having to get a new tooth because it's going to be expensive. And my teeth are usually pretty good. But note to self, to all people out there, don't laugh hysterically and over the top around big glass martini glasses because it would probably end up breaking your mouth open. Chad says, I believe earlier he said you have 1 year and 2 months or something like that sober. That's awesome. Very good for you, Chad. He said, I broke my front tooth too, Skraby, also drinking. You know, when you get a bunch of sober people into a room, we all find that we have very similar stories, maybe different circumstances, but very similar stories. Dan says, normal Skraby Tuesday. Can't disagree, Dan. Can't disagree. But hey, I would really love to have a nice normal day one of these days. Gonzo says, I forgot my shades were on my head and had to do a classic headstand on the dance floor. I'm assuming your shades were crunched. Just crunched. All right. That's me telling you about my crazy day. I'm looking at my list. Okay, pitchers. Now, there's 2 pitchers. Let's just say for the sake of this argument, they're not going to trade Michael King or Dylan Cease. So the Padres right now have 3 pitchers, starting pitchers that you can lock in. Dylan Cease, Michael King, and Yu Darvish. Johnny has a really funny thing. I know I'm kind of skipping around, but he says, crosses off laughter using big martini glass off list. That is pretty hilarious. But you have 3 pitchers here at the Padres. Now, I was talking to someone earlier, and they were like, I'm not so sure that the Padres are going to have to go after a bunch of starting pitching because there's a couple guys already on the team that I think can take over and at least handle some of the duties until they figure it out or until they, are able to get some guys back from injury or able to see what's going on in the minor leagues, if anyone's good enough to come up and debut, things like that. But there are two names that everybody knows, but for some reason we're just kind of skipping over them, and people are going to say, well, for some reason, the reason is because they're not good, and I disagree with that. Those names, Matt Waldron and Randy Vasquez. Not huge names, but I would like to remind everyone last year that Matt Waldron was in Cy Young conversation for a good part of the first part of the year. He was one of the guys in the rotation that kept them afloat when they needed pitching. When there were certain guys, when Yu Darvish left the team and Joe Musgrove got injured in the middle of the year, they needed a guy who could step in and give them a chance to win every 5th day. And that's exactly what he did. If you look at what he did in June, he had, he was 2-2. I'm not going to really look at his record too much because the Padres at that time were not really locked in as they were when they got started in the second half of last year. But in the month of June, he had 6 starts and he had a 2.45 ERA. He had 27 strikeouts, and he didn't give up more than 3 earned runs during that month of June. Now, I know that's just 1 month, but if you look at what he has done mostly throughout the year, I think he ran out of gas last year. He wasn't used to throwing that many innings. And so that's why they kind of, let's see, his last start before he played the Diamondbacks later on in the year was August 21st against the Twins. So that was his last start. And again, I think he just ran out of gas. But if you don't count August and September, because those are, obviously the months that he wasn't his best, he held his own. In the month of May, he had 6 starts. Going from top to bottom, earned runs 0, 2, 1, 2, and then 7 against the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm willing to throw that one out because it was the only aberration of all of those. And then when he started the year, he ended up giving up 5 earned runs to the Blue Jays on April 19th. But for the most part, he was really good. He didn't give up any runs. He gave up 1 or fewer runs 3 times in the first 6 starts of his season. So I think that Matt Waldron, if they use him correctly, and he's had a lot of time to work on his stuff, I think he could be a good addition. He's not even an addition. I just think he could be a good guy for a 4th or 5th spot, depending on who you have when we get into spring training. I really like Matt Waldron, the knuckleball aspect of it all. People were saying, hitters were saying last year that they've never seen a crazy pitch like that. And so I'm willing to give him another go this year and give him a good chunk of time to prove that he is the pitcher that we saw last year. He tailed off again at the end of the year, but I think they're going to maybe manage it a little bit different this year. Now, the other player that I said, Randy Vasquez. Randy Vasquez came over in that Yankees trade, and he, I think that Randy Vasquez, and I remember tweeting this, and I had a lot of people actually co-sign this tweet, but it was, I don't mind when Randy Vasquez starts. I actually kind of think that he's pretty good when he starts. And he definitely holds his own and more. And he did last year. The Padres needed a starter, and he came out, and he had some clunkers. But I think that for the most part, Randy Vasquez kept them in games. And now I'm not saying that Randy Vasquez is your lock-it-in 5th pitcher. I'm just saying that if they're not going to bring in any more starting pitching, make trades for it, if they're going to keep their guys, Michael King and Dylan Cease, and obviously Yu Darvish, then these 2 guys are, actually not terrible options. And so I think we kind of need to remember that a little bit too. I'm guilty of this all the time, where I'm not paying attention to things that I should be paying attention, things from the past. I kind of forget about Matt Waldron and Randy Vasquez, even though throughout the year they were very important for the team. I don't know that these 2, I don't know that you're going to find better options than these 2 guys on the scrap heap. You're going to have to trade to find a better option. I don't know that you're going to be able to go out there and just salvage a project and have them be better than either Matt Waldron or Randy Vasquez. So I think that when they get into spring training, we'll see how they're using them. But I wouldn't be surprised if they started the season as it is right now with Dylan Cease, Yu Darvish, Michael King, Randy Vasquez, and Matt Waldron. So those are the 2 pitchers I was talking about with my coworker earlier today, and we kind of need to remember these things sometimes. All right, I have a quick... I said yesterday I was going to bring some of the play-by-play calls I did when I was calling the high school tournament. And these are short calls, but I'm putting it up on the screen. And so people can see it on YouTube. If you want to see it on YouTube, you can just search 97.3 The Fan and go to 54 minutes in. But here is one of those calls, and it's Super Smash Brothers is what is the game that they're playing. And if you can, you're going to hear me, but I really don't know what's going on. So here is that play-by-play. Everybody fighting in the air. Right now, Mission Middle School, both of their players have all 3 stocks. Pacific Trails Middle School, their players have 2 stocks. Now Garza of Mission Middle is down to 2 stocks. And Kingman's down to 2 stocks as well. 3:30 left in this round. So I told you, short clip, but the reason that was so short is because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was trying to figure my way out through things, and I didn't know lives were called stocks. And so, looks like I'm playing something on accident. I'm trying to queue up the second one. But that was a short clip, and it wasn't very good. But here's another one, and it's also a short clip. Let's see if this one is any better. Looks like both are on the attack. There's a lot going on in the air in this match. Josiah trying to stomp someone with King Dedede. And there you go. That's my great play-by-play. I watched the entire video, and I came up with those moments. And yes, I'm too hard on myself, but I came up with those moments. I'm being asked, have I played Super Smash Bros? Yes, I used to play it way back in the day, but I haven't played it recently. And these kids were very, very good. And so I was kind of not annoyed, but I was in awe, and I had no idea what was going on.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
All right, gripe time. Real quick before we head out for the day. This has to do with my dentist appointment this morning. Not the actual dentist appointment, but my daily gripe for today is people who park far too close to the driver's side door. So I was leaving the dentist, and I was in my spot, in my lines, and I go around to get into my driver's side door, and guess what? This person literally put maybe a foot of room, less than a foot of room. So what the heck am I going to do? This is how this day started. This is why I was so angry earlier today. I ended up, now granted, if I had my old car where I didn't care about the paint job and all that stuff because it was so old, I may be a crazy person and just open up the door on the other car because you're asking for it if you're going to not allow me to get in my car. But because I am driving a new car, and it's like my first new car, basically, of my life. So I've been driving hand-me-downs my entire life. I'm trying to take care of this baby, my ride, and I crawled in through the back because I couldn't really get in on the other side either. But that was besides the point. But I crawled in through the back, and I really felt stupid, and I really, really, really wanted to write a note and say, "Hey, next time, don't park so close to people. Please," because I had to crawl in the back of my car. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Don't park too close to people. All right. That's it for the Skraby Show. Thank you to everyone for being here tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Sports Court tomorrow. If you have any issues you want us to solve, let me know at Matt Skraby. Otherwise, Ben and Woods at 6 a.m. and Annie and Nelson at 10 a.m. on 97.3 The Fan. Have a great night, everybody. Let's all smile tonight.